Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over Link's top 6 tier 3 swords. So we ended up doing a video about a week ago where we ended up going over the main tier 3 sword for every single character within the game. However, Link is a little bit different in that not only does he have 3 different weapon types, but within each of those weapon types, he has multiple different tier 3 weapons. So there is a very, very wide range of weapons that can basically be under that category of essentially his best weapons. So in this video, we're basically going to be going over all 6 of Link's best 6 weapons, and essentially go over their base stats, as well as builds for them, and just go over them basically in their viability order. Before we do get into that, I did finally make a playlist for all of our Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity guides. So if any of you have been interested in seeing all of them, we did end up making a nice, neat guide, as of course we do cover some videos on this channel that are not Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity related, of course, and some people were requesting I make a kind of nice little playlist with them all in it, and we finally did. So if you want to check that out, that'll be right up in the corner over there. But anyways, let's get into these weapons. So these 6 weapons are the Savage Lynel Sword, the Mighty Lynel Sword, the Royal Guard Sword, the Royal Broadsword, the Master Sword, and the Guardian Sword Plus Plus. Let's start from the top at the absolute best one, which is the Royal Broadsword. So this weapon is exceedingly annoying to get. I actually just got it yesterday, which is why we're covering this video now. It is one of Link's hardest weapons to obtain. The main reason for this is to be able to get the best base stats for this weapon. You specifically have to get it from Rusted. There are 2 weapons that Link actually has to get from Rusted in order to have the highest base stats for them. Many other characters only have 0 or 1 that you need to get. However, Link has 2, and those 2 are the Royal Broadsword, which has a base value of 75 and is his best overall weapon, and the Royal Halberd, which has a base value of 74, which is what this one is right here. We're covering spears in a different video. But anyways, as far as the Royal Broadsword, this is exceedingly broken. It gains attack speed plus plus as its first hidden modifier, which anything that gets this is already really good, and it also ends up getting another square, which is auto critical hit after combos, which ends up synergizing pretty well with everything else that ends up doing, especially the fact that attack speed combos pretty well into being able to do your combos quicker, as that's pretty much the whole point of attack speed, is to be able to do your combos quicker. There are 2 main builds that you'd basically do this sword into. One of them is going 2 attack speed plus plus into 2 damage per 100 KOs, which is essentially what this is, if we could ever find another attack speed plus plus. And the other build that you can end up doing is just doing 4 attack speed plus plus, where you literally just put it all down the line. I do have one other build that I end up building this into. This is the base 71. This is the highest that you can find without getting it through rested means, and this is basically a double attack speed plus plus into a double improved quality of weapons found. So you can end up kind of doing like that. Obviously you can do it into any 4 squares, into a 2 whatever else, or you could just go simply into all attack speed plus plus, which is generally speaking probably the better overall build, as it has much stronger of a start. However, if you're going to be using this weapon into a stage where it's going to be going for a long period of time, where you're getting hundreds upon hundreds of kills, or if you're switching into Link after having used a other character prior, you would end up ramping up this weapon a little bit more as far as damage output compared to if you just had straight attack speed. While your combos will come out a little bit slower, being able to rack up that additional damage will end up making it ultimately stronger by the time it reaches the damage cap. But anyways, that's the Royal Broadsword. Insanely good weapon, absolute best weapon pretty much in the entire game arguably, and definitely worth considering. So second weapon now, the Master Sword. So Master Sword is a bit of a weird one in that it is both his second best, but also simultaneously worse tier 3 sword that he has. So if you can maintain this thing at full HP, it's basically his second best, and in some instances even his overall best. However, if this thing drops below max hearts, this is basically his worst top tier weapon, as the main benefit that this weapon gets is whenever you're at full HP, you will end up making wind waves every single time you do one of your slashes with your sword when you're doing your Y spams. This not only will end up hitting a wide variety of enemies that are around you, but this will also indirectly increase the special charge rate of your attack, since you're going to be gaining charge rate from every single enemy that those waves end up hitting through. So you're going to be able to build up your special quite a bit quicker using something like a max HP Master Sword compared to any of these other sword options. The other thing that this sword gets to use, which isn't really used too often, but is applicable to some stages, is that you get to do additional damage to hollows, and that you get to expose their weakness point gauge and basically tear apart through them like they're absolutely nothing. And there is one particular mission where this is extremely broken. We actually showed it for a video where we go over like when we were grinding, and this is the Mysterious Arrival missions. The level 69 mission is literally a mission against 5 5 hollows. I do quite a bit of my farming here, as it's a great way to reset into correct blood moons, as well as a great way to just kind of AFK farm, because it's more loading screen than it is even battling. And then you do the battle, it takes under 30 seconds, and boom, you just get 2 weapons, one for Link and one for one of your other allies. So it ends up working out really, really well. But yeah, Master Sword, second best weapon. Arguably sometimes his best weapon, but also can be his worst if you end up taking damage. It's kind of a high risk, high reward kind of weapon where you, if you get hit, you're kind of out of luck. You definitely want to make sure you always stay at full health, even if you have to like overly consume apples, as the second you dip down, you're kind of in a bad situation as far as its damage output. Anyways, third best sword is the Savage Lynel sword. This, despite being his third best sword, is actually his highest base damage of any of his weapons. He actually has 2 that are tied at the highest base damage. One is the Savage Lynel sword at 76, and the other one is the Savage Lynel Crusher at 76, which I still have not found yet. It's out there somewhere. But those are his 2 highest base value weapons, as well as the 2 highest base value weapons currently within the entirety of the game. One build that I actually ended up doing this into is, of course, his 4 times improved quality of found weapons, to basically use it as a weapon farming weapon, essentially, given that it has the highest base stat of any of Link's weapons, aside from the Crusher, of course. It ends up making for a very, very good farming weapon. It also has chance to KO weak enemies, which I play on very hard only, and this is actually pretty useful on Blood Moons towards later in the game, because those enemies, the small units, are really beefy on Blood Moon, late game stage, plus very hard. They have substantially high HP, and be able to just kind of sweep them up and end up KOing them, because you end up hitting them with multi-hits, and every single one of those multi-hit instances have a chance of 11% chance to kill them. Ends up working out pretty good. It also has a pretty interesting second unique modifier, which is perfect guard chance when guarding. This isn't too useful, however, basically what this does is when you're holding up shield, you of course have the option to click Y in order to parry or to reflect like guardian lasers and stuff like that. However, one interesting attribute that this has is 10% of the time it'll automatically do it for you. So as long as you're holding up your shield, 10% of the time it'll automatically do the parry for you, as if you clicked Y at the perfect timing. That is essentially what this does. Obviously, this wouldn't come into play too often because of its very low rate and the fact that you can just manually do it. But if you're just holding up shield and not really bothering to do the Y counter kind of thing, it'll just occasionally do it for you. So that's kind of cool. Very rarely used, but it can situationally come into play if nothing else. So yeah, that's basically what it ends up doing. As far as other builds that you can end up doing into it, the main one would end up being going double attack speed plus into double damage per 100 KOs. If you want to do it more into a damage build, obviously this is entirely into a farming build, what we have it into right now. Anyways, let's go into the next weapon, which is his 4th best weapon, and also probably one of his highest cosmetic weapons, which you'll see in a second. But it is the Royal Guard's sword. So this you can kind of build in some pretty standard builds where you can go like double attack speed plus into 2 damage per 100 KOs. As you can see here, we kind of went into attack range plus. I feel like a lot of people underestimate attack range plus. Obviously, attack speed plus would be better. However, it is substantially harder to find. You find like 3 to 4 attack range plus in the time that you find like 1 attack speed plus, so you can kind of use it here and there. Attack range, a couple useful things that it actually has on sword is when you're doing the 4Y to X kind of sweep ability, it has a longer sweep range as far as how many more enemies it can end up getting in. And it's also pretty good when you're doing the 5Y to X and trying to hit a stun. It can sometimes hit a longer range, making it easier to stun 2 or 3 big enemies simultaneously. Basically, the whole point of attack range is not to do more damage, but to hit more enemies simultaneously, which indirectly results to more damage. It's not directly doing more damage to any one specific unit, but it's hitting more units simultaneously. Kind of like what Master Sword does, but in a different way, essentially. So, not the best perk in the game, but it does have its utility purposes. As far as its 2 unique traits, it's actually the only one on this entire list that has no unique traits whatsoever. Obviously, it still has 2 hidden perks, but neither of those are unique. They're just a healing item effect, which is really useless. It basically just increases the amount of heal that you get from an apple by about 1/4 a heart or half a heart, somewhere around there. Both of them useless, even if it's like 10 hearts, it would still be useless. But the other one is a damage at full hearts. So this, of course, is similar to the Master Sword, where you just do slightly more damage if you've maintained not being able to get hit. However, if you're trying to run a weapon that you're trying to run without getting hit, you would obviously just be running Master Sword instead. So why would you ever use this weapon? Well, it has one really particular purpose, which is pretty much entirely cosmetic. But some people who care about cosmetics might want to run it as a weapon. So you can end up doing it like this. So you can end up doing it with the full Dark Link and basically go into a full Dark Link outfit. It matches Dark Link better than essentially every other weapon that Link has. So it ends up working out really nice if you want to go the full Dark Link build. So that's the main reason why you would ever run this weapon. It's pretty much the only reason. It has a base of 73, so still a pretty decent base value. But compared to other characters that can get a base 74 off of their primary weapon, as well as the fact that Link has better options, unless you're using this cosmetically, you're very rarely actually going to be using this weapon. So do be mindful of that. As far as this next weapon that we have here, we have the Guardian Sword ++. So this isn't his best farming weapon, which is why it's pretty low down on this list. Link's best farming weapon is actually a 68 tier 3 Dragonbone Moblin Club, mostly because it ends up getting monster part drop rates and rare material drop rate, which are technically both monster part drop rate, because rare material drop rate can increase your chance of getting the yellow rare monster drop rates as well. So you can basically just put a 4 monster part drop rate ++ and use this to farm out monster parts. Obviously not the exact same as running sensors, however you specifically use this as monster part hunting for whenever you need that kind of material. So this basically makes every single one of Link's other farming weapons pretty useless in comparison, but still technically usable if you wanted to go down the sword route rather than having to use a two-handed route. So as far as this weapon is concerned, it is one of only 3 Link weapons and Link's only sword that gets resistance to all status effects. This is pretty underwhelming in the current state of game, but it can still be usable in a sense, in that you have immune to all status effects. This is most noteworthy for freeze, I would say, more so than anything as far as status effects that currently exist within the game, since it will kind of prevent you from being able to be frozen and kind of locked into place for a moment. But aside from that, it doesn't really have too many good uses, and overall it just kind of ends up being rather average. As far as builds for this, you'd pretty much just put some of the farming circles into it, into just like a little bit of attack speed, and pretty much be good to go. Or if you really want to, you could just go 4 circles and just lose the 5 damage in order to go for the overall amount of better farming. Do keep in mind, this thing only has a 72 base value, so we're basically going down in base value with every single one of these. This one was 73, this one is 72, and guess what? The next one is 71. So this is Link's worst tier 3 weapon that are still considered tier 3 weapon. There are theoretically 2 other tier 3 weapons as well. The Lynel Tri Boomerang, which ends up getting, I believe it was monster part drop rate and battlefield material drop rate once it gets fully maxed. This has a base value of 71. However, it's a tier 3 light, so it ends up maxing out at a 162, whereas this thing maxes out at a 167. And the other one that Link ends up having is a Guardian Sword Plus, which is basically just a weaker version of Guardian Sword ++ in every single possible way, so you would never really bother using it. However, it has a base value of 70 initially, which makes it seem like it's almost like this. However, it ends up becoming quite a bit lower, only reaching a 161 once it gets fully maxed, whereas this can end up reaching a 168, plus it has better modifiers. But anyways, as far as the final weapon, there isn't too much use for this as far as what it can be used for. It has damage reflected when guarding, which is pretty low, only 20% for that, and has chance of landing shockwave. Chances of landing shockwave seems pretty useless on almost every single character, or pretty much every single character in the entire game, mostly because you're generally not landing in a way where you're actually going to be able to have a chance of landing with this for the shockwave, because if you're doing like a dodge cancel or anything like that from the air or anything else, it won't end up doing your a chance to even land. And also a lot of things already land aggressively, like for example when you click X with Link, you'll come down to the ground with sword and just kind of hit the ground quickly, and you don't have a chance of landing shockwave there because you already have a shockwave when you're doing that. So there's very few instances where you can really end up actually getting a shockwave from it, and this is applicable to a lot of characters where it almost seems like it basically never ends up happening. So yeah, it just doesn't seem like it ends up gaining much value. But that's pretty much all the weapons. One other one that I do have here that I have at 30 that I didn't quite mention. This is actually a base 67 Royal Guard sword. If I'm not mistaken, you get this on the very last stage in the game and won the chest. So if you can't find like the 73 version of it, I believe this is the highest base value weapon you actually ever get from that. Of course, you can farm them later. However, if you're kind of looking for like a early, or you know, an early post-game weapon, I think you can kind of end up using that for a while until you find some of these like really bigger, beefy weapons, like the Royal Broadsword 75, or 71, the Savage Lynel 76, and of course this kind of using Master Sword for a lot of the game until you find a lot of these other better weapons as well. But anyways, I'll pretty much wrap it up for this video. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. We'll be covering plenty more videos on Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Quite a few of them require quite a bit of farming, as I do want to be able to have 30 maxed out weapons with perfect seals for characters before I really do guides on them and stuff like that. And also, I still want to focus a lot of more like general videos before we kind of get into that. One video I do really need to cover pretty soon will, of course, be covering how to farm weapons, as a lot of people people have been asking about that, and haven't really been able to do a comprehensive video on that, but we will be very, very soon. But anyways, guys, feel free to leave a like, feel free to subscribe for future content, and I will catch you guys later. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Game Awards later today, so hope you all catch that. Who knows? Maybe they'll drop DLC for this game then. No, I highly doubt that. But who knows? Maybe Nintendo will announce something at it. But anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone.